Hello everyone, my name is Ella. Welcome to my channel where I get to talk about knitting and crochet as much as I want to. I've got a lot to share with you today. I've got 5 whips and, 5 finished objects and I think 4 whips to show you. And I'm super excited to do that, so let's get into it. I thought I'd just introduce myself as well, being my very first episode ever. So a little bit about me. Like I said, my name is Ella and I live in Cambridge, New Zealand with my husband and our little dog Teddy. Cambridge is a small town in the North Island and it's just south of Hamilton, which is about an hour and a half south of Auckland. And we're also slap bang in the middle of the island as well. We're about an hour and a half either side of the island. So it takes it's a little bit of driving to get to the beach, but we like it. We've got lots of beautiful trees here and beautiful exotic trees that are deciduous, so we get that lovely autumn colour here in Cambridge, which not much of the country does because a lot of New Zealand native trees are not deciduous, so they're beautiful and green all year round. But I love autumn leaves, so I'm super grateful to be living in Cambridge at the moment. Beautiful autumn, and we are officially actually this week into winter, but there's still a few leaves on the trees, which is nice. Yeah, so I got into knitting about 3 years ago. I had learnt to knit as a kid and crochet, but I'd made only a few things over the years here and there, nothing too serious. I knit one of those oversized mohair jumpers in the 80s on the big wooden needles, but I'd never really made any full-size adult garments before. I didn't think I'd ever get to finish it, to be honest, because I find stockinette stitch a little bit boring and only really knew about flat knitting before last year. Didn't know about knitting in the round at all. Hard to believe, isn't it? All of you advanced knitters out there will probably be all knitting in the round for years and years, but I've only just really taken that up. So anyway, it was just about 3 years ago when I changed jobs and my brain was fried with all of the new information and I was really feeling quite lazy and sitting on the couch quite a lot doing nothing but binge watching Netflix. And I just felt really lazy and wanted to feel like I was achieving something. And I was doing a bit of slow stitch, but I decided to look for something new and came across crochet, and I came across the Sophie's Dream blanket. And I'll pop a link to that below, although we're not talking about crochet today. I thought I'd pop that link in for you because it is a super brilliant pattern and the squares that you make are much more fancy than granny squares. They're absolutely beautiful. I'll put a picture up too, just so you can see what I did. It took about 5 months for me to learn this, guys, but bit by bit, the more I learnt, the more I loved it, and the more I had my crochet hook in my hand. So once I finished that, I went on to another crochet blanket and then another one. And pretty soon I had yarn and a crochet hook with me all of the time, almost all of the time. And yarn had really crept into my life, really in every part of it. And I loved it. I felt really soothed by it and found it very relaxing. I felt like I was achieving something while I was doing nothing. And I started getting bored with Netflix. So I switched to YouTube and found knitting podcasts. So little bit by little bit, it was creeping in that I might like to start knitting at some point in the future. And then I found out my daughter was having her second baby, and I thought how cool, I could knit some little baby jumpers. But I thought I'd stick to crochet at first, and I found a little pattern for a crochet baby cardigan. I thought how cool, because it's not knit and having to be sewed up. And because with crochet you just keep adding on to your last stitches, so I feel like that's a lot easier. Well, I did at the time. And so I crocheted 3 little cardigans, and then I decided, well, if I'm going to knit any more, or make any more, I'm going to have to economize with yarn, because crochet does take up quite a bit more yarn, I found anyway. And so I found knitting patterns for babies, and I found one that was top down in the round, and I was very excited to try it. And I'll pop that link in below as well. All of the links will be there, guys. I've already said that heaps of times, but I keep saying it. But yeah, I found that pattern really, really amazing. Gorgeous designer. She has a YouTube channel too, and she had the video tutorial that went with the sweater. And I was so happy, and went ahead and made a few of those, and then got brave and did a flat garter stitched cardigan. And then I decided to put that on hold and wait to see how big this baby was and how much more knitting she would need. Then I went back to my crochet and kept crocheting my Persian tiles blanket until she was born. And then when she was born, I went back to the knitting for her. And yeah, I was hooked, line and sinker, as they say, on knitting, and decided I wanted to make a jumper for myself. And at the time, I was watching Alicia from Lovely Day Knits, I think the channel's called, and she was making this sweater that I'm wearing, which is the Gleniff Sweater by Tania Barley. I was very inspired to knit it, even though this was my first adult size garments. I was feeling a little bit confident in myself, and I thought, well, if Alicia can do it, I can do it too. How hard could it be? Just follow the pattern, right? Little did I know what I didn't know about making adult size garments. I mean, you get there in the end if you keep persevering, which I did. I knit this jumper about 6 or 7 times over with the amount of frogging I had to do, going backwards and forwards and round and round in circles and learning all these different techniques, and slowly I got it better and better each time I frogged it. So it was a very good exercise in learning to knit. I learned how to do short rows, I learned how to do colour work in the round, I learned how to do colour work with 2 hands. Then I switched to continental knitting with colour work. I'd already learnt to do continental knitting with the Filsa baby sweaters, because I found that my shoulder problem was playing up with in my English style knitting, because I tend to put my yarn around like this, and that gives me pain at times. But with English style knitting, I knit really tightly, and with continental knitting, I knit really loosely. So the combination never really took off for me. Yeah, so after this sweater, I just kept knitting. So let's get into the detail about the Gleniff sweater. I won't bore you with all of the details of all my trials and tribulations. We'll just get straight into the pattern and the lovely designer, Tania Barley. She lives in rural Ireland in a beautiful little cottage, and she has a beautiful YouTube channel. She has vlog style videos, so they are fun to check out. They're lovely to watch. And she does lots of spinning, and she talks about her designs and walks her dogs and things, and it's really, really cool. So yeah, check her out. But anyway, the Gleniff sweater, which I'll just stand up and show you. I'll put some footage in as well, but this is the jumper. I'm really pleased with how it turned out, even though it does have quite a lot of mistakes and the size is a little bit bigger than I wanted. I ended up with about 32 centimeters of positive ease. It's knit top down. It's a yoke construction. It's got colour work through the yoke and then colour work in the body, which is beautiful. I love how it's turned out. It's just absolutely my favourite thing to wear right now. So Tania has designed the pattern for a 28 stitch gauge in 4-ply fingering weight yarn, and 2.5mm needle for the ribbing, and a 2.5 to 3mm needle for the body. I used a 3mm in the end for this yarn, which is the Pear Gyntt by Sandnes Garn. Tania knit hers with a woolen spun. I didn't. I've since found out that I could have got a little bit better at my colour work if I'd have chosen a woolen spun yarn to knit with the first time for colour work, but that's a different story. This is what I've got left of one of the balls. It is absolutely lovely and soft. Part of the reason probably for that is because it got frog so much. It's been washed a few times. But anyway, it's beautiful and soft and lovely to wear on the skin, I think. But as it turns out, I'm not sensitive to yarn. I thought I was, but I'm not. I only get a bit sensitive in my forehead when I'm wearing woolly hats. And because both of my daughters are very sensitive to wool, I really did think that I was sensitive to wool. But the more I read about the benefits and the amazing properties of wool, the more I want to wear it and the more I'm willing to experiment with it. So there you go. If you think you might be on the edge of sensitivity, search around for wool that suits you, because you might find that you find a wool that suits your skin. Anyway, I ended up using a 3mm needle. I didn't go down at all in the yoke, although I did try to. Up for the colour work. I did try that. It didn't seem to work for me, but I have got my eyes on another colour work pattern to try out all of the things that I think could have made this colour work better. But anyway, I'm very happy with how it turned out, and the colours that I used in the Pear Gyntt was I'm looking down at my notes, guys, so bear with me. It's a medium brown marl, which is colour 2652, and then I used the natural undyed yarn, which is 2650, and I'll link you to my patterns so you'll get the information on what I've knitted out of, in case you want to know that, and then from there you'll be able to click on to the pattern. But if you don't have access to Ravelry, I will put the name of the pattern so you can Google it and get it from wherever you normally get patterns from. So that is all I can think of to say right now about this beautiful sweater, other than the fact I stopped and started it and frogged it tons and tons of times. But one of the times that I stopped and started it was to go back a step and knit a colourwork cowl, which is what I should have done in the first place, right? And the colourwork cowl that I decided to make was the Michalina Cowl by Vintage Purls. And here she is. I just absolutely love how it turned out, and I learned such a lot from knitting this. I bought it from Vintage Purls as a yarn kit, and it came with, of course, all of the yarn that you needed to knit it, as well as the pattern and the YouTube video tutorial, which was absolutely fabulous. She gave me lots of tips to learn colour work, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. I actually ended up knitting this twice. So, funny story, I got to treat myself to this yarn kit by choosing to knit it for my sister-in-law for her birthday. And I knit it, and I thought as I was knitting it, because I just used the recommended needle size, which is a 3.5mm needle. And the wool, by the way, should have said, it's the Tanahill from Vintage Purls, and she hand dyes all the yarn herself, and it's just beautifully soft merino wool, and very, very warm when you do colour work because it doubles up, and it's woolen spun, so it's very light and squishy and lovely. And I've got my eye on some yarn to make a colour work sweater in it. I like it so much. So anyway, back to the funny story about how I got to make 2 of them. My sister-in-law is quite a tall and slender woman, and she's got a very long and slender neck. And I thought, as I was knitting it, I thought, oh my goodness, this is going to be big on her. I hope it fits her. And because it fit both me and my husband, it fits better on my husband. I'll put some pictures up of what it looks like on me. But yeah, so I thought, well, this is going to be way too big on her. And as predicted, when I gave it to her for her birthday and she tried it on, it looked like it was swimming on her. And if she folded it under, it didn't do what I wanted it to do for her, because she lives in Christchurch and it's quite windy down there and she walks a lot. So I wanted her to have the cowl up her neck like it was intended to be. So I contacted Morag from Vintage Purls and said that I needed to make another one, and I only needed to replace the main colour, the navy and the grey, and then so I think it was another 50 grams that she sent me of those 2 colours, maybe, and I ended up with all of these left and beautiful yarn. Yeah, so the box came with some special goodies which I distributed between me and my sister-in-law. So it came with the picture that inspired the pattern, and this is Winter by Michalina Cowl. I hope I've said that right. But yeah, the colours in that artwork inspired the pattern, and the birds, of course. And I can't remember whether I mentioned, but the birds in the pattern are Morag got those off a vintage embroidery pattern. So that's something that was in the box, was this beautiful stitch marker, which I absolutely love. My sister-in-law would have no use for it, so I kept that. And it had the little stitch markers, the metal stitch markers, the ring stitch markers that I love, and the progress keeper, and set of 5 of those, and some little snips and some little chocolates, and also some little precious stone, polished stone stars and things, and I gave those to my sister-in-law. Anyway, enough about that. The cowl turned out amazing. Love it to bits. Can't wait to knit with her yarn again. When I ordered the replacement yarn to make the second cowl, I also got some more of her wool in a lovely chocolate brown colour, and I've got almost 50 grams left of that after knitting my daughter's partner a hat. Beautiful, so I'm going to knit myself a hat with that. Now the next finished garment project that I've got to show you is another garment, and it is none other than my ranunculus. Let me get it for you. Here she is. Let me move over. Okay, so because I had so much trouble with this, and I had attempted to make a super complicated pattern for my first garment, I thought I needed to quickly knit myself and get some more experience before I attempted another colourwork jumper. So if you're new to the knitting podcast world, you might not have heard of the ranunculus, but if you have been around the knitting podcast world for a while, you would have definitely heard of the ranunculus, I'm sure, because everybody, it seems, and her neighbour has made the ranunculus. But here's my version, and I'm pretty happy with this, even though I got the gauge turned out. I liked the idea let me skip back. I liked the idea of knitting it on a tighter gauge. So the ranunculus, as you probably all know, is knitted on a 6mm needle, and you can use any yarn for this pattern, which a lot of people love that idea because they can have one pattern and knit in many different yarns. I used some of the wool that I had originally got to make this, which was the Super Wash baby yarn. So this is a Countrywide Lullaby baby yarn, and it's Super Wash Merino, nice and soft. And I thought, well, maybe I could just try a ranunculus. But I did not like the loose gauge. I'm not really a loose gauge lover, although I'm kind of changing my mind lately. So when I did the gauge swatch, don't mind my massive gauge swatch, I was trying to be clever and do it in the round properly. Just don't worry about it. But anyway, here it is on its own, and it turned out really loosey-goosey, and I didn't really love it enough to make it. And somebody suggested knitting it with mohair. So, being really keen on the Sandnes garn, sorry, I just had to pick the ball up off the floor. Being a lover of the Sandnes garn, I decided on the Tynn Silk Mohair, and when I put it together with that, magic happened, and it turned into this, which is a lovely, fluffy, squishy, beautiful fabric. It's very drapey. I went down a needle size because I wasn't keen on the large gauge, like I said. I watched quite a few examples knit from Edible Makes Knits, and she likes a tighter gauge too, and that's what I did try to achieve. I didn't achieve it. But even though I gauge swatched with both these yarns and decided to go, I think it was a 5 or a 5.5mm needle, I didn't realise how much it would grow in washing. Maybe I didn't wash and block it. Probably. I didn't wash and block it, I don't think. And yeah, it grew, and my ending stitch gauge was, let me see, 15 stitches. And the pattern calls for a 14 stitch gauge, so it was only one stitch off, and I was trying for about a 19 or 20 stitch gauge. Didn't get it, but anyway, I'm very happy with how it turned out. I followed the pattern exactly for the long sleeve with the I-cord bind off. I'd already learnt to do an I-cord bind off with the Filsa sweater, so I wasn't bothered by that, and I liked the look of it, so that's what I did. I just did a normal bind off. I just went up in a couple of needle sizes to do the bind off on the ribbing. I did the twisted rib as per the pattern, and I did the twisted rib with the tubular cast on as per the pattern. And I found the videos by Sun Dragon. I think the channel is called Sun Dragon, that's where I found a lot of very helpful videos. She takes you through all of the patterns step by step. It was much easier to follow than Midori Hirose's videos. She has a lot of videos too, and they're very, very helpful, but I just found the English speaking talking me through the step-by-step for a beginner much easier. So I'll link that below too, just in case there's anybody watching here that hasn't heard of ranunculus, because believe it or not, there are people that knit that have not heard of the ranunculus. I was in a wool shop in Auckland a while ago, and I was talking about the ranunculus to some lady and who knitted, and she'd never heard of it. So I guess there's still a lot of people that just don't watch YouTube as much as I do. So here's my next finished object. It is none other than the Tolsta Tee by Rebecca Clow. Remember, I'm trying to knit fast, so I'm looking for big gauge patterns at the moment that are quick to knit, and I wanted something to wear in the early autumn. And I chose this because I had bought the yarn in my local yarn shop, and it is a beautiful yarn. I really, really like it. This is a Lana Grossa Superwash Merino. The pattern itself is a top-down raglan tee, and Rebecca gives you the patterns for the 8-ply version and the 4-ply version. And she also gives options for bust darts, and she gives a PDF for a number of different ideas to do with the pattern. So you could put eyelets or lace details or stripes or textured patterns, and she's got a number of ideas from other knitters that have knit this in one PDF for you, so that's quite handy. And of course, if you're an experienced knitter, you probably don't need this pattern, but if you're a beginner knitter like me, I think this pattern is amazing because it's just a very versatile pattern for a top-down raglan. The gauge is quite big, so her gauge is recommended needle for the 8-ply is a 5mm needle with a 17 stitch gauge over 27 rows. I wanted it tighter, thought I was being smart, and I really did gauge swatch this time. I really did the gauge swatch, and I washed it and I blocked it, and I was super happy with the fabric, but what I ended up with was not quite what I got. I didn't really account for the weight once again of the finished garment, and it dropped quite a bit, so I ended up getting a 23 row gauge. And it's quite funny because now that I'm saying that, it's really confusing me because I don't know how it ended up so big. But long story short, when I was knitting it, I was very happy with the fit and everything, and I didn't think it was going to grow so much, so I kept knitting it quite long. And yeah, I kept knitting it and decided, oh well, I can always frog it. But then when I washed and blocked it, it grew so enormous that I was so disappointed I couldn't even look at it for about 2 weeks. But now I do like it, and I've worn it and it's really nice. The only problem I find with the wool is that on a loose gauge, this kind of wool is even more kind of pilly, not pilly, but splitty. So I've got a little dog, plus my nails are never perfect, so I can catch, it catches. And I don't think you'd have that problem quite so much if it was knit on a tighter gauge. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, please, guys, because I'd love to know the answer to that. I would actually like your advice on wool, on a wool book. Actually, I'm looking for a reference on all the different types of wool, because I'm finding it quite confusing, and I really do want to find more rustic wools to knit with, and I would especially like to find those yarns that are local to New Zealand. That is my goal for the rest of my knitting journey anyway at the moment, is to find more natural sort of wools rather than the superwash, because for a beginner I think it's quite hard because they just grow so much when you block them, and they're a little bit unpredictable for me at my stage of knitting. I think though that if I did knit any more superwash stuff, it would be at the tighter normal gauge, not the loose gauge. Anyway, rambled on a bit much about that, but that's the lovely yarn. It is a lovely yarn, and that's what I've got left. So I could knit some little dolly jumpers or something with that. Yep, so I'll just go and get my next finished object. So this is my next finished object, which is the Seedling Vest by Julie Peng. It's a free pattern, and it's only one size, so it is not size inclusive. But the reason why I chose this pattern was that I had only three skeins of this. It is a Gotland yarn, which is hand dyed, and I got it while I was visiting my daughter in the South Island. There's a yarn shop called the Wool Shed, on the top of Takaka Hill in the Nelson Tasman region, which is right where my daughter lives, and I was visiting her and was very keen to check this wool shop out, as it's got the natural rustic Gotland wool, and I was very keen to try it, but she didn't have a lot of yarn ready to pick up and buy right there and then, and this is the colour that had the most that I liked at the time, and it was only 3 skeins, and I thought that was enough to knit a vest. As it turns out, it wasn't quite enough to knit most of the vests that I had in my Ravelry favourites, so I had to search out a vest pattern that used less than 600 metres, and this is what I ended up deciding on. And you might be able to see that I've still got my ends, because I'm thinking that I am going to frog this and knit something else. If you've got any suggestions of any vests that use less than 600 metres, I'd be super grateful as to your ideas. I have got a few ideas in my favourites, but the reason why I want to frog it is it's quite cropped, and although I like the cropped look on other people, I'm not quite there yet for myself, even though I've got into the baggy jeans. I don't quite like the cropping on myself, and it was worked bottom up, so I not being experienced enough, I didn't really get that right, and I've ended up with 50 grams of the 300 grams that I had left. So I thought, well, if I'm going to frog it, I might as well use another pattern that is top down next time. So, and I would like to use up all of the wool that I've got, if that makes sense. But anyway, it is beautiful. It's more on the rustic side. I don't think I'd be happy quite with this on my skin. So a good top layer garment, or top layer wool to knit with, and I'm going to put a little bit of tiny bit of footage that I grabbed while I was in the shop. The owner, I think her name's Sarah, could have got that wrong, but anyway, the owner seemed super lovely but very busy. She runs a cafe, the farm, and the wool, and you can't really get much on her website. So if you are ever in Takaka, I totally recommend going over to Takaka from Motueka. I totally recommend popping in there, having a lovely cup of coffee and a meal, and grabbing some wool. Lovely, lovely shop. Love it. And I love this wool. I'm just really excited that I can knit with more rustic yarn now. It just really is making me quite excited. So yeah, it's growing on me. It really is. It's growing on me. Anyway, that's it for all of my finished objects. Let's move into my whips. So my first whip to share is another ranunculus, and I've almost finished it. I've just got the sleeves to do. I'll pop in a bit of footage there of me trying it on for you. So I've knit this on a size 6mm needle this time. Did the gauge swatch and everything. And this is the yarn. It is premium New Zealand wool, vintage it's called, from Skeins Yarn. It's quite nice, but it's got a high twist, and I got it on special, and it was only about $3 or $3.50 a ball, I think, on their massive specials that they have. And so the whole jumper is going to cost me $35, I think. Really, really happy with how it's turning out. It's got a lovely tighter gauge. I don't think it grows too much with washing, being 100% wool. The gauge swatch didn't seem to grow much anyway, so looking forward to that being finished so I can wear it, because it's nice and thick and warm, being a 10-ply Aran weight yarn. And I'm knitting the sleeves, as you can see, on my new Chagu small circumference interchangeable needle set, which I love. Now I have to buy a small size, a small set, because I love them so much. Problems. Anyway, this is it, and hopefully it'll be my next finished object to show you next time. My next whip is all but finished. I just need to sew the buttons on, but none of the yarn ends are sewn in either. But this is the Calendula baby cardigan by, I'm going to get this wrong, it's a Portuguese designer, and the name is Agasalos and Bagalos. Hopefully I got that right, because I'm doing a test knit for her right now, so I love her. But again, gauge wrong, totally wrong. This is knit with the Lana Grossa cool wool, and it's I did it with the 4-ply held double to give me a DK weight. And the pattern is actually designed for a sport weight, but I thought I'd be clever and do the gauge math and knit the size that I wanted, and then it would all turn out. But actually, baby's only 9 months old, and this is big enough for a 2-year-old, I think, because again, super wash yarn and me don't mix, and it just grew so much. It's okay when you're knitting for a little baby, because if it's a little bit big, well, they'll grow into it. But if you want a specific size, I was trying to go for a 12-month size, I think, and it ended up being the size for a 2-year-old. But anyway, now that it's been in the naughty corner for about a month or more, I've got it out again now, and I've decided, yep, I'm not going to frog it. I'm just going to go and get the buttons. And I've seen the buttons at my local yarn store, so all I've got to do is put on the buttons, and you'll be able to see it next time all finished. My next whip is the habitation throw. This is going to be a long-term whip, so I probably won't show you this every time, but I'm knitting this in 2 very grey colours. What I did was bought yarn online. Never a good idea with me yet, because I'm not that experienced with buying yarn, so it didn't quite look the same as what I thought it would in person, and it was the West Yorkshire Spinners exquisite yarn, which is 20% mulberry silk and 80% Falkland wool. I got quite excited about that description, and the only colour that they had available that was kind of neutralish, that I wasn't scared about buying online, was grey. But when it turned up, I didn't really love it enough to want to wear it. So one of the YouTube channels that I love to watch is Wool and Wishes, and Kirsty had also bought this and was knitting, I'm not sure if it was this blanket that she was knitting, but she was knitting something, and she decided to pair it together with the Zelba Ball Crazy. But I've decided to pair it with a mandala, Countrywide mandala yarn. It's just dropped on the floor. And it's got all these different mild variegated greys in it. And so pairing that with the exquisite, which is normally really expensive, and this is why I bought it, I think it's being discontinued, so they're all half price now. So it was $20 per skein, and it is a 4-ply fingering weight yarn, and there's 400 meters per 100 gram hank, so I got 3 of them. So then I've got 3 of these to knit it with, although this is a slightly thicker weight, so it's finishing slightly ahead of this. So I haven't quite decided whether I'm going to keep going until I've got half left of this or half left of that, because if I go for half left of this, I'm going to need some more of that wool. Yeah, so it's turning out reasonably okay. It's going to be very neutral, but it's got the variation that I was looking for, kind of. Yeah, but the wool, the fabric that it's making is very lovely and light and squishy. So I'm very happy that I'm actually knitting something that I like, instead of having this in my stash forever and a day, because I don't think I would wear that colour. Not sure, but it's lovely wool. I don't know why they're discontinuing it. Maybe they're coming up with something better. So that's that. I'll show you the progress maybe in a couple of months, because it's very slow going now. I tend to get inspired to knit it just in between projects and not on a regular basis, so that's going to be a long one. So the next work in progress that I've got to show you is this very, very cute baby dress. It's my very first test knit ever, and I know some of you don't like test knits, but I am quite excited about it because I just like her patterns, and I'm going to knit this baby dress anyway, so why not do a test knit? And they do like a number of beginners to do test knitting, because apparently beginners can pick up some things that more experienced knitters don't pick up. So perfect for the job, I thought. And I like her pattern, so I thought, why not give it a go, do a test knit. So this pattern is coming out soon, I guess, after the test knit's in. It'll be out soon, so keep an eye out for that. That is a pattern by, I'm just looking down here because I can't remember how to pronounce it. So it's the same one that I, for the calendula cardigan that I've already mentioned, Asagalus and Bugalos. That's the design name, and she's from Portugal. So yeah, I hope I got that right. And I just think it's super cute. I've just got the armholes to finish off, which are I-cord and around the neckline, and it's not a secret test knit, so I can put up pictures for you. And it's just gorgeous, and I'm knitting this in Mrs. Peacock's yarn, which is a lovely hand dyer in New Zealand. Now the last whip I've got to show you is the little Bunny O'Deal by Cynthia Valet. I am having a go at making her little rabbit, and here is the start of it. I've done the head. So hard for you to see, but it's so cute. It's turning out so cute. And yeah, and it's knit on 2.25mm needles. I did do a gauge swatch. Oops, disappeared. I did do a gauge swatching because I'm such a tight knitter. I think it's going to be okay, but the needle recommended is a 2, and I don't have any 2s, so I've got doing it on a 2.25, and I'm loving it so far. I have done some amigurumi in the past, but I love the idea of using my scraps up to knit little baby toy, well, I probably will keep this, to be honest. I'll probably knit something else for baby toys, but this is for me. So it's the Bunny O'Deal by Cynthia Valet, and I'm so excited to knit this, because if this goes well, I'm going to buy the whole Mooch and Friends book and knit all of them. Yeah, so as you can see in the background, or you might be able to see in the background, it is going dark, and I need to let my husband out of his room because he's hiding in his room for me so that I can finish filming. And I'm going to leave it there for today because I'm running out of time. So I'll see how I go, but I might do a little bit of what my knitting plans are tomorrow. So I'll be refilming tomorrow, if at all. If not, I will see you in the next episode, which I hope to have for you every 2 to 3 weeks. I'm sure I knit enough to talk about every 2 to 3 weeks. And I do have plans to do some vlog style videos, some project vlogs. I've got one started already, so look out for those. And if you have stuck around to the end of my blathering on about my knitting, thank you so much. And I hope you have enjoyed it, and I didn't do such a bad job for my first episode, and I really look forward to chatting with you in the comments. See you next time. Bye.